In this video, I'll first show some building tips, then I'll walk you through how to make the robot, and at the end, I'll show you how to troubleshoot some common issues. This video is for the cat bot and the dog bot. They have the same walking mechanism, they just look a little different. Okay, let's start with a few tips. If you ever have trouble fitting any two pieces together, you can rub some candle wax on the outside edges of the piece being inserted or on the inside edges of the other piece. This helps because when the wood pieces are being cut by the laser, the glue that holds the plywood together melts and gets on the outside edges of the wood. That glue is kind of tacky and it can make it difficult for the pieces to stick together. The wax covers that layer of glue so it's not quite so sticky, and that makes it easier to fit the pieces together. However, that layer of glue on the outside edges of the wood is also what helps these pieces stay together, so only use the candle wax when necessary. Okay, tip number 2. If there are two pieces that are too loose and they're falling apart, you can get a very small piece of masking tape, pinch it around the outside of the connector, and then fit it back into where it needs to go. Alternatively, if your robot is completely done and you've fine-tuned it and it's working great except something keeps falling out, you can just apply a little bit of super glue to the outside of the fitting. Okay, tip number 3. If you need to take something apart by hand, the easiest way to do this is to firmly pinch it, and as you pull, wiggle the piece from side to side. However, there's an easier way to separate two pieces. All you need is a blunt, non-sharp butter knife from your kitchen drawer, or a small flathead screwdriver. Either way, to remove two pieces more easily than by hand, wedge the tool between two of the parts, and then just give it a twist. Repeat on the other side until the part comes loose. You can also use this technique to loosen up a connection that's too tight. Tip number 4. If you want to paint the robot, I recommend doing that before assembling it. If you do choose to paint your robot, make sure not to get any paint inside any of the connection points or on the outside of any of the connectors. The first step is to wire up the battery holder to the motor. Make sure to turn the battery holder off so you don't accidentally create a short circuit by crossing the wires. Open up the battery holder and install the batteries so the flat side is touching the spring. The motors have two metal tabs on them that have holes, and we're going to use those to connect the battery holder. Take one of the wires, put it through the hole on either of the tabs, fold the wire, and then twist it as many times as you can. When you're twisting the wires, avoid pinching and twisting the metal tab on the motor. If you do that, it might break off. Repeat with the other wire. Through the hole, fold it in half, and then twist it as many times as you can. In the end, it should look something like this. Give it a light tug and make sure that the connections are strong. It doesn't matter where the red and black wires are connected. Turn it on and make sure that it works. The next steps are to assemble the body and install the motor. You'll need these hairpin-shaped pieces for that, and note that there are two types. One is slightly longer than the other, and one has a square marking and the other has a circular marking. You've also been supplied with one extra of each in case one breaks. So find this piece, gather two of the longer pieces that have the square marking, put one of them through the square hole, like this. Now take the other one and interlock it with the first piece, like this, and also insert it through the square hole. After getting these two pieces interlocked a little bit, the easiest way to finish it is to stand it up on your work surface like this, and then use your thumbs to push down. If this is difficult to do, you can use something like the handle of a butter knife to gently tap on the pieces until they're fully fitted. Next, take the candle and rub some wax on the inside of this hole right here. This will help reduce friction from the walking mechanism. Now, repeat on the other side, but use the pieces that have the circular marking and put them through the circular hole. In the end, it should look something like this, and the shorter piece should be able to rotate inside that hole. Next, gather one of these side pieces and rub wax on the inside of this circular hole and on the inside of this square hole. Then fit this piece onto these connectors, making sure that the square hole matches up with the square hole here, and the round hole matches up with the round hole here. To install the motor, we need to turn this over. To figure out which way is the correct way, let's take a look at the body. Right here is the neck of the robot, and this larger circular hole is where the head is going to go. So think of this side as the front of the robot. Now imagine that when the motor is installed, that this is like the wheel on a car. Right now, the way it's turning would mean that the car is driving forward. For this robot, you actually want this part to be turning the other way, as if it's driving the robot backwards. So right now the motor is turning the wrong way. To make it turn the correct way, just take the motor out, and then turn it around. Now you can see the motor is turning the other way, as if it's driving the robot backwards. And this is the correct way. This might seem a little counterintuitive, but this is the way it needs to be because of the gears. So keeping that position in mind, gather one of these circular pieces and put it on the motor shaft on the other side, then install the motor into place. Double check that it's still turning the correct way, and put another circular piece over this motor shaft. These are just going to help to correctly space the side pieces far enough away from the motor. Put a little bit of wax into these holes again, and attach the other side piece. If you're wondering where the battery pack is going to go, it will be attached inside here, but I find it's easier to build the robot first and then install this. Next, we're going to build the leg mechanism, starting with the gears. Start by rubbing wax on this side piece next to the motor shaft and this connector. This is going to help reduce friction when the gears are rubbing against this side piece. And also rub wax between all of the gear teeth. Rubbing wax between all the gear teeth makes a big difference in terms of how smoothly the robot functions. Put the small gear onto the motor shaft. And this large gear onto this connector. The easiest way to do this is to put the robot on its side, get the gear in position, and then push down with both hands. Turn it on, and make sure it's turning smoothly. If it's not, you may need to manually turn it a few times to get it going. Now go ahead and do this on the other side, but with one really important difference. The rectangular hole on the gear must be pointing the opposite direction as the first one. So in other words, if this one is pointing down, then on the other side, the hole on this gear must be pointing up, like this. If you don't attach the gears like this, then the robot won't work. So again, put plenty of wax on the outside, small gear onto the motor shaft, and the larger gear onto this connector, and in this case, the rectangular hole is going to be pointing up, opposite of the gear on this side. And if it's not moving quickly, then use something like a butter knife again to just loosen up that large gear just a little bit. Next, we're going to attach the back leg. Now take this circular piece and attach it to the larger gear, making sure that this cross-shaped hole lines up with this small rectangular hole on the gear, like this. And again, the easiest way to do this is to put the robot on its side, line up the piece, and then push down with both hands. Next, gather one of each of these pieces and interlock them like this. Once they are partially interlocked, the easiest way to finish it is to stand it up on your work surface like this, and then push down with both thumbs. The finished part has this cross-shaped top, and the bottom has this little pin. Next, rub candle wax on the outside of this circular piece. Position the hole in the leg over the empty cross-shaped hole right here. Then you'll use this piece to connect them. One important thing to note, you might remember that there is a small rectangular hole that's in the larger gear. When installing this piece, it's important that this little pin lines up with that hole, which is always going to be this part of the cross right here closest to the center. So anyway, back to the leg. Line up the holes and connect them with this piece. The easiest way to do this is to lie the robot on its side, get this piece in position, making sure that the pin lines up with that hole in the gear, and then push down with both of your thumbs. Rub more candle wax on the outside of the leg next to that connection, and attach this large circle with a cross-shaped hole. Okay, go ahead and try it out. And if it's a little sluggish like this, again, you may need to just turn it a few times by hand to get it going, or use something like a butter knife to very gently loosen up some of the connections just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to install the front leg. First, get two of these staple-shaped pieces, interlock them, and then fully connect them by standing them up on your work surface and pushing down. Gather one of the front leg pieces and set it down on your work surface, making sure that the toes are pointing in the same direction as the back foot. Then get this connector that you just made and insert it into this cross-shaped hole. As always, get it in position, then push down with both hands. Now to attach the leg, start by putting one of these circular spacers onto this connector. Put the front leg onto that. Then hold it all together with one of these oval connectors. Make sure that the front leg can move easily. Now attach the back leg to this connector on the front leg, like this, and hold that together with one of these small circular connectors. Turn it on and try it out. If it's not moving smoothly like this, again, you may need to just get it moving by hand first, or loosen up any tight spots. Okay, this side is done. Now you're going to repeat on the other side. So here's a quick recap. Circular piece goes over the large gear, making sure that the cross-shaped hole goes over that small rectangular hole. Get it in position, and then push down with both hands. Assemble these two pieces, interlock them, fully connect them, rub wax on the outside of this circular piece, get the back leg in position, and then install this piece, making sure that the pin goes inside that little rectangular hole in the gear. Rub more wax on the outside of the leg, and attach this circular piece that has the big cross-shaped hole. Test it out, and if it's moving sluggishly, then use something like a butter knife to carefully loosen up some of those connections. For the front leg, gather two of these staple-shaped pieces, connect them together, then fit this piece into the front leg, making sure that the toes are pointing the same direction as the back leg. Put on a circular spacer, then the front leg, then hold it in place with this oval connector. Make sure the front leg can move easily, then attach the back leg to the front leg, right here, and hold that together with one of these small circular pieces with a cross-shaped hole. And make sure it's working. Okay, now we can finally add the battery holder. Notice that one side has the wires attached and the other side doesn't. Put the side that doesn't have the wires diagonally into the robot like this, then push down the other side. And take a moment to just straighten everything out. Okay, almost finished. We just need to attach the stabilizers to the bottoms of the feet. Just interlock these two pieces like this. Then, to get this part fully inserted, set your robot down on your work surface and push down on the foot. You may need to rotate the gears to manually move one leg lower than the other. And finally, attach either the cat head or the dog head onto the neck, and the tail onto the back. And of course, give your robot a bow or a bow tie. Okay, let's try it out and see if it's all working. Now this might happen to you as well, and don't worry, it's all really easy to fix. If your robot isn't moving, the first thing that you can try doing is putting your fingertips on the gears back here and then lifting up to get the legs moving. When the robot is first put together, sometimes all the parts are a little bit stiff and the wax needs some time to spread out, and just moving it by hand at first can help the robot get going. If the robot's still not moving, then you'll probably need to loosen up the space between the gear and the side piece of the robot. And again, the easiest way to do this is just to get something like a butter knife and wedge it between the large gear and the side piece like this. Then just wiggle it a little bit. You may be required to do this procedure a couple of times to loosen it up enough for the robot to move smoothly. Okay, let's try it again. And move it by hand a little bit. And there we go. It's starting to loosen up and get going. Okay, I loosened it up one more time, and now it's working just right. If your robot is wobbling from side to side a lot when it's walking, or it even falls over, then this means that one or more of the leg connections is too loose. If the front leg or the back leg is too wobbly, that can destabilize the robot. So just take a moment to tighten up all the connections that attach the legs to the robot and try again. All right, that's looking better. All right, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy your new robot.